Claire's phone hit the floor at 11:43 p.m. Not because she dropped it. Because her hand stopped working. Because the thing she was looking at on that screen made her brain refuse to send signals to her fingers. She stood there in her kitchen, barefoot on the cold tile, staring at the footage from the backyard security camera, and she could not breathe. Lily was standing at the back door in her pink pajamas. Arms stretched up. The way she always reached up when she wanted to be held. And a man stepped into frame, knelt down, and pulled her into a hug that lasted 11 seconds. Claire counted. She rewound and counted again. 11 seconds. The same way Daniel always held her. One hand on the back of her head. The other arm wrapped tight around her tiny back. The same tilt of the head. The same broad shoulders. The same way of standing like the world owed him nothing and he was fine with that. Daniel had been dead for 8 months. Claire picked up the phone. She pressed play again. And again. And again. By the 4th time, she was sitting on the kitchen floor with her back against the cabinet and her knees pulled to her chest, and she was not crying. She was past crying. She was somewhere beyond it. Somewhere cold and quiet and completely still. She did not sleep that night. In the morning, Lily came downstairs in those same pink pajamas and climbed into Claire's lap at the kitchen table and said, "Mommy, you look sad." "I'm okay, baby," Claire said. "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." "Did you sleep well?" Lily nodded and reached for her orange juice. And Claire watched her daughter's face very carefully and said, as gently as she could, "Lily, did anyone come to see you last night?" Lily looked at her juice. "No." "You can tell me. I won't be upset." "I know." "Did someone come to the back door?" Lily was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Can I have the cereal with the stars?" Claire let it go. For now. She called in sick to work. She sat at the kitchen table with her laptop and pulled up every piece of security footage from the past 6 weeks. She had 4 cameras. Front door. Back door. Driveway. Side yard. She went through all of it, day by day, hour by hour. It took her until 2 in the afternoon. And she found 3 more moments. 3 weeks ago. Back door. 8:12 p.m. Claire had been at her sister's house for dinner. Lily was with a babysitter inside. The babysitter, a 19-year-old named Rachel, was in the living room watching television. In the backyard, the man appeared at the fence line, stood there for 40 seconds, and then left. 2 weeks ago. Side yard. 6:55 p.m. Just a shadow. Just a figure moving along the side of the house and then gone. Last Thursday. Driveway. 3:30 a.m. He stood at the edge of the driveway, just outside the range of the light, and looked at the house for 4 minutes. For full minutes. Then he walked away. Claire closed the laptop. She sat very still. And then she said out loud to no one in particular, "What is happening to me?" She thought about calling the police. She even picked up the phone. But she put it back down because she did not know what she would say. "My dead husband keeps appearing on my security camera." She could hear how it sounded. She was a widow. She was exhausted. She was grieving. People would look at her with that soft, careful expression she had learned to hate, and they would speak to her slowly, and they would suggest that grief does things to the mind. She knew what grief did to the mind. She had lived inside it for 8 months. This was not grief. That night, she waited until Lily was in bed, and then she went to her bedroom closet and pulled out the box she had not opened since the funeral. Daniel's things. His wallet. His watch. The keys to his truck. A photograph from their honeymoon in Costa Rica where he was laughing at something off camera and his whole face was lit up. She sat on the floor and held the photograph for a long time. The casket had been closed. Severe trauma, they said. She had never seen his face. She had never questioned it. She had been too destroyed to question anything. She had sat in the front row of that church and listened to people talk about her husband, and she had held Lily on her lap and she had said thank you to everyone who came, and she had gone home and she had tried to keep living. But now, sitting on the bedroom floor with his photograph in her hands, she was thinking about something she had pushed away every time it surfaced. A detail so small she had almost lost it. At the funeral, Daniel's mother had taken her hand and said, "He was my whole world." Both of them were. Both of them. Claire had assumed she meant Daniel and Lily. But Daniel was an only child. He had told her that on their second date. He had said it the way people say things that cost them something. "My parents had another son. He didn't make it. He was born first and he only lived 3 days. They named him David." Both of them. She had never thought about David again. Until now. The next morning, she called Daniel's mother, Margaret, and said she needed to see her. Margaret lived 40 minutes away in a house full of Daniel's childhood photographs. She was a small, careful woman who always smelled like lavender and always seemed to be holding something back. Claire sat across from her at the kitchen table and said, without any warm-up, "Margaret, did Daniel have a twin?" Margaret set down her coffee cup very slowly. "Why are you asking me that? I need to know the truth. Claire, please. I need you to tell me the truth right now." Margaret looked out the window for a long time. Her hands were flat on the table. Her jaw was tight. And then she said, very quietly, "David lived." The room tilted. "What?" Claire said. "He was in the NICU for 11 weeks. We almost lost him 4 times. And when he came home he was..." Margaret stopped. She pressed her lips together. He was never quite right. He had problems. Serious problems. By the time he was 16 he was in and out of trouble, and Daniel loved him. He tried to help him. But David made choices that put people in danger. And we made a decision, as a family, to..." She stopped again. "To what?" Claire said. "To protect Daniel. To protect his future." David agreed to disappear. We gave him money to start over somewhere else. Daniel knew. Daniel always knew his brother was alive. "I'm so sorry, Claire. I'm so sorry he never told you." Claire drove home in complete silence. She did not turn on the radio. She did not cry. She walked into her house and she stood in the hallway and she said to herself, very carefully, so it would be real, "There is a man out there who looks exactly like my husband. And he has been coming to this house. And my daughter knows." That evening, she sat with Lily at the dinner table and she said, "Lily, I need you to be a big girl and talk to me, okay? I'm not upset. I just need to know." Lily looked at her with Daniel's eyes. Completely Daniel's eyes. And she said, "About the man." "Yes. About the man. He told me not to tell." "I know. But I'm your mommy. And you can always tell me." Lily was quiet. She pushed her peas around her plate. Then she said, "He smells like Daddy." Claire's throat closed. "Does he talk to you?" "He says he loves me. He says he's sorry he had to go away for a while. He says he watches us to make sure we're safe." Lily looked up. "Mommy, is he a ghost?" "No, baby. He's not a ghost." "Then why does he only come when you're not home?" Claire did not have an answer for that. So she said, "I'm going to talk to him, okay? I'm going to figure it out." That night, she wrote a note on a piece of paper and taped it to the inside of the back door where the camera could see it. The note said, "I know you're watching. Come to the back door tomorrow night at 9. If you don't come, I go to the police." She did not sleep again. The next evening, she put Lily to bed early. She sat in the kitchen with the lights low and she watched the back door and she tried to remember how to breathe. At 9:04, there was a knock. 3 quiet knocks. The same way Daniel always knocked on a door even when it was his own house, like he was reminding himself to be gentle. She opened the door. And there he was. Same face. Same eyes. Same mouth. 8 months older and hollowed out and carrying something heavy in every line of him. He was wearing a grey jacket she didn't recognize and he had a beard Daniel never had and there were shadows under his eyes that looked permanent. He said, "Claire." And she said, "You're David." He nodded. She stepped back. He came inside. They sat at the kitchen table where she had eaten breakfast with her husband 1,000 times, and she looked at this man who wore her husband's face and she said, "Tell me everything. And do not lie to me. Not one word." He told her everything. He told her that he and Daniel had stayed in contact in secret for years. Letters, mostly. Occasional phone calls. That when David finally got clean and got steady, Daniel had been the first person he called. That they had been slowly, carefully rebuilding something between them. That on the night of the accident, Daniel had been coming back from meeting David for the first time in 11 years. That David had been the last person to see him alive. That he had held his brother's hand on the side of that road while they waited for the ambulance, and that his brother had looked at him and said, "Take care of them. Just from a distance. Don't scare her. Just make sure they're okay." Claire listened to all of it without moving. Then she said, "You've been watching us for 8 months. Yes. You never thought to knock on the door. I didn't think you'd want me. I didn't think you'd want to look at this face. Did it occur to you that I might need to know? That I have been living in a house alone with a 4-year-old for 8 months, wondering what I did wrong and why my husband is gone and whether any of it was real." David looked at the table. "I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't cover it. I know. She thinks about him every single day. She draws pictures of him. She sleeps with his old sweatshirt because it still smells like him. She asks me where heaven is and whether it's far." Claire's voice was steady. She was making it stay steady through pure force. "And you have been standing outside this house with his face and his hands and his way of walking, and you have been choosing every single night not to knock. I was afraid." "Of what?" "That you'd look at me and only see him. That it would hurt you more." "It does hurt more," Claire said. "But I needed more. I needed someone who understood. I needed someone who knew who he really was. I needed..." She stopped. She looked at her hands on the table. Lily needed someone. The kitchen was very quiet. David said, "What do you want me to do?" And Claire said, "I don't know yet. I don't know what this is or what it's supposed to be. But I know that you are the last living person who loved him the way I loved him. And I know that my daughter reached up for you the way she reaches up for no one else. And I know that I have been so alone in this grief that some nights I can't remember what his voice sounded like, and that terrifies me more than anything." She finally looked at him. Really looked at him. "I'm not ready for anything," she said. "But you don't have to stand outside in the dark anymore." David was quiet for a long time. And then he said, "He talked about you constantly. Every letter. Every call. He said you were the reason he learned to be still. He said before you, he was always running from something. And then he met you and he just stopped running. He said you were the only place that ever felt like home." Claire pressed her hand over her mouth. And for the first time in 8 months, the tears that came did not feel like drowning. They felt like something loosening. Something that had been held too tight for too long finally being allowed to release. Outside, the backyard was quiet. The security camera light blinked steady and slow. The same camera that had caught 11 seconds of a hug that cracked Claire's world open and led her to the only thing she had left of the man she lost, his brother, his blood, the other half of a story Daniel had carried alone for too long. She did not know what came next. She did not know what shape this would take or how long it would take or whether it would ever stop feeling like standing at the edge of something with no railing. But she knew one thing with complete certainty. When Lily woke up in the morning, she would not have to be alone in the quiet of this house with just her cereal and her orange juice and her drawings of a man standing outside a door. And neither would Claire. If this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss one. Drop a comment below. Would you have opened that door? Tell me what you would have done.